Brian and Kenzie in the morning. And Chicago's alternative all day.
Q101.
Brian and Kenzie on Q101. Time for Case's movie review in honor of the F1 movie being released this weekend in theaters. Looks like something you should absolutely see in the theater with Brad Pitt. So Days of Thunder, Tom Cruise racing movie. And at the end, NASCAR street race tickets. So just at the end of the review, stay tight here. We'll get you tickets to next weekend. Both days, winner gets 2 weekend grounds passes for the NASCAR street race sponsored by Bet365. And that is all on the way after Case's movie review.
For Christ's sake, tomorrow's the 4th of July, and we will be open for business.
What country you from? What ain't no country I ever heard of? They speak English and what?
Utah. Give me 2.
Do you enjoy pain?
Pain don't hurt.
Wax on, right hand. Wax off, left hand.
Now fry like bacon, you little freshman piggies! Fry! Fry!
Playing football in West Canaan may have been the opportunity of your lifetime, but I don't want your life.
Well, Tiffany and Cherville said they had a Days of Thunder party last night for everybody, and they'd all seen the movie before. But they knew you were doing it this week, Case, and Maryville showed up at Tiffany's house. I don't know how many she means, like 7, 8 people maybe. Maybe it was more. And they watched it in the backyard. They projected it on the back of the house.
That's living right there.
They have one of those projector things you can buy on Amazon.
Tiffany and Cherville, good on you. That's good stuff.
They were outside having a couple drinks on a hot summer night watching Days of Thunder. Is there a better day or night out there? So just to get ready for your review today, so you better not disappoint.
I don't plan on it.
Well, we don't know. We never know if you like it or not. The eyes of a 26-year-old of a 35-year-old movie. 35 years today.
35 years ago today came out?
35 years for Days of Thunder? God.
Are you okay?
No, I'm not okay. If you would have told me that movie came out 17 years ago, I'd have believed you. Wow. Released June 27th, 1990. An alleged $60 million budget. I guess you're going to address that in the review.
What does that mean?
I don't know. We'll find out.
The budget was originally $30 million. They spent at least 60, possibly up to $75 million on it.
The box office was $157.9 million. Holds a rating of 37% on Rotten Tomatoes. That's rotten.
Rotten Tomatoes. They don't even know.
On 67
They mess up
reviews,
everything.
the average rating was 5 out of 10. Quentin Tarantino said the film was his favorite big-budget racing movie, and there are a lot of racing movies. As of November 2024, a sequel is in development.
Yeah, there is.
Well, I guess we'll find out more if Tom Cruise is involved in that.
Yeah, Tom Cruise is involved in the Days of Thunder sequel. They're not going to make Days of Thunder 2 without Tom Cruise.
Wait, I'm confused. I thought F1 was like a sequel.
No, unrelated.
What's F1?
Its own thing.
I'll tell you what.
Why are we doing this movie? I thought I've been under the impression the entire time it was a sequel.
Because they're both racing movies.
Is Tom Cruise in that one?
No, Brad Pitt.
Then why did Brad Pitt and Tom Cruise go to the carpet together?
I think Tom Cruise was there to see the movie with Brad Pitt on the red carpet.
Wow. Boy, did I think that was a sequel. That's really upsetting. I was excited to see the sequel. This is devastating news.
Well, Kenzie, if you want to leave the studio and just come back in 15 minutes, you can't.
I'm really upset.
Well, here we go. Days of Thunder, not F1. Days of Thunder. Here's what the trailer sounded like 35 years ago when it was promoting the movie.
Paramount Pictures presents the motion picture with the power.
There's nothing I can't do with a race car.
The emotion.
Tell me what you love so much about racing.
The passion.
To know that I can control something that's out of control.
The fire.
We can fix it right here.
The speed.
Car's perfect, Harry.
The sensation of summer's biggest thrill. Tom Cruise, Days of Thunder, rated PG-13. Now playing at theaters everywhere.
A little muddy, a little hard to make everything out.
Good Lord.
I'm
There's a
sorry
lot of
the
static.
National Film Archives don't have a nice Days of Thunder trailer preserved.
Yeah, also,
A lot of static there, huh?
Also, when he yells, "We can fix it," that's his read from Mission Impossible. They're all dead. They're all dead. All right, Case, what'd you think of Days of Thunder? Give it to us.
What did you say the Rotten Tomatoes rating was?
37%.
Oh, my God. These people don't know what they're talking about. Days of Thunder kicks ass.
Okay.
I loved this movie. I loved this movie in the way that Brian loves the Fast and the Furious franchise, where I watched the first one last year for the 25th anniversary. And when I watched the Fast and the Furious, all I could think was, I noticed every plot hole. I noticed every stupid line of dialogue. I had nitpicks with the cinematography of it. And I'm not saying that Days of Thunder is a perfect movie. I might not even be saying that Days of Thunder is a good movie. But I was on a nonstop thrill ride for the hour and 50 minutes that this movie existed. I adored this. This is great. Why don't people like Days of Thunder more?
Well, our people do. You know, they do just because it has a 37% on Rotten Tomatoes. I don't think there's one of our listeners that doesn't think Days of Thunder is a good movie.
God, this movie's excellent. All I heard all week from people was, oh, you're watching Days of Thunder? Oh, it's Top Gun with cars. This movie's better than Top Gun.
Calm down.
I like this movie so much more than Top Gun.
I like everything Tom Cruise is in, though. I'm immediately drawn in. And it's not like, oh, I'm so attracted to him. I think he's great. I just love him.
Kenzie.
Sounds like you're attracted to him.
No, but it's not like, like there's certain actors where I'm like, oh, I'll watch him in a movie. And it's not that I just think he's so talented. Like, I love every role he's in.
I agree. I like every Tom Cruise movie pretty much.
I hadn't seen a Tom Cruise movie until April when I watched Top Gun for the first time in remembrance of Val Kilmer, who passed away. And Kenzie, I got to agree with you. This Tom Cruise guy knows what he's doing.
He's so good.
I am a huge fan. And also, he looks so freaking good in this movie. This is peak Tom Cruise hair. His teeth look great. He looks great. He's in the mellow yellow car at the end of the movie. It's the peak of mellow yellow. The whole thing, I mean, this is what I'm talking about. I could put myself in this universe. I think that was my big issue with Top Gun was, I'm not the most militaristic of fellow.
Oh, God.
I've never considered joining any branch of the military in my entire life.
And the military's happy about that.
Hey, they seem to be doing okay. All right? They don't need me.
I feel like you would make us lose if you joined. Like, not everybody is a win.
Make us lose.
I don't want you anywhere near that.
World War II would have had a different ending if you were involved.
Look, I'm sure they're great, but it's never been my thing. It's never been my thing. But I watched this movie with characters with names like Cole Trickle, Harry Hogg, Rowdy Burns, Buck Brethren, late 80s NASCAR drivers, cameos by Rusty Wallace, among others. I go, that could be me. I could be in this movie. I could have been Cole Trickle. This movie's awesome. The whole thing is great. The aesthetic of this movie, all the logos, all the old race cars that are in this movie. And by the way, they actually had prop cars racing in the actual 1990 Daytona 500 to get footage for this movie. They had two cars that were not officially timed vehicles. They weren't in the actual race, but they were on the track during the 1990 Daytona 500 for 40 laps to pick up additional footage for this movie. Everything about this is great. It's such a good movie.
708 checked in. Joe said, Case is on a roll. Nothing was cooler when this movie came out than getting a Cole Trickle Days of Thunder Hardee's cup filled with ice cold mellow yellow.
Oh my God, that sounds, and to have a cigarette with that probably. Oh my God.
See, Case wasn't alive.
Oh my God, Case, for Halloween, you should just wear like the jumpsuit with the mellow yellow.
I would love that. Can somebody give me a mellow yellow jumpsuit?
Let's
oh
see
my
how
God.
they are.
Very slimming. It's black. So it's
I think what's great about this movie is I follow NASCAR just enough to understand the basics of a NASCAR race, right? And while, especially in the final Daytona 500, there were a few missing caution flags, and there's a lot more ramming in this movie than there typically would be in NASCAR. They also play off of some key characteristics in the NASCAR universe. You know, tires are the things that win the race. It's great in Darlington when Cruz wins his first race, and he has to beat the pace car out of the pits in order to not fall a lap behind, and then he uses the outside to win the race. It's all just real enough and just true enough to form that I found myself completely encapsulated in this universe, and that's not even to mention the romancing angle that we'll talk about in just a second.
Yeah. You have a couple clips in the movie that were your favorite. Was the hit the pace car, that clip?
This is Tom Cruise. So, for those that haven't seen the movie, this is what I wrote down as my synopsis. Brian said earlier I have more notes on this movie than any other movie I've watched, which is true. Let me read my notes verbatim here. For anybody that hasn't seen Days of Thunder, here's what the movie's about. Brian, you tell me if I'm missing anything. This movie is about an amateur race car driver who convinces a disgraced crew chief to come out of retirement to teach him to drive. And after suffering a traumatic brain injury at Daytona, he first harasses, then falls in love with a 23-year-old neurosurgeon from Australia who is practicing medicine in the Charlotte area. He gets the yips as a driver and is not able to drive correctly until his rival asks him to drive his own car in the Daytona 500.
Nailed it.
What a movie. This is awesome. And this is during his first race when Cruz is on the gas too hard. He's not taking care of his tires. He's crashed into everything. And this is what happens when he goes into the pits.
All right, well, we're still under a caution. I want you to go back out on that track and hit the pace car. Hit the pace car? Hit the pace car! What for? Because you hit every other goddamn thing out there. I want you to be perfect. Go on, go.
Duvall is unbelievable in this movie.
Oh, Duvall is the best actor in the movie. I think Cruise does great work, but this is a Duvall movie.
Well, Michael Rooker, who I'm not trying to bring him back to The Walking Dead, but Merle in The Walking Dead, he was incredible in this movie. Michael Rooker as the villain driver. He was unbelievable.
We got this text from Kyle, and it says, my favorite quote from Days of Thunder is, let me out of the car, Cole.
Good dialect on that, Kenzie.
There you go.
By the way, you can get, I found a website called Crazy Racewares. You can get a mellow yellow racing suit just like in the movie for $75.60, $25 delivery.
You have to buy it.
I think I'm going to just start wearing that to work and on dates and everything.
No, you should start wearing it on first dates.
Yeah, I think that's going to be the move. The other great line in this movie is after more upheaval with Tom Cruise driving, the race team owner comes in. And we've got this audio censored, but I think we have to discuss what he says. Can you play this other clip that's in the folder, Brian?
Sure.
I had sponsors in the stands, and I'm hugging and holding hands and kissing them in the ear and praying for a good showing. And what do? We end up looking like a monkey f***ing a football out there.
Who, by the way, Case, you've now seen enough movies where I can reference this. You've seen Independence Day.
I have.
That's Randy Quaid, who at the end of Independence Day was like, I'm back. He's the dad of the kids, and then he kills himself. Sorry for the.
Oh my God.
Sorry for the spoiler of Independence Day there, but that's who Randy Quaid was in there.
I just want to take 30 seconds and try to figure out what he meant by that. Tom Cruise makes a mess of himself on the track. The whole team's embarrassed. You guys look like a monkey effing a football. Play the audio again. I want to hear it one more time.
All right.
I had sponsors in the stands, and I'm hugging and holding hands and kissing them in the ear and praying for a good showing. And what do? We end up looking like a monkey f***ing a football out there.
What does that mean?
Well, it's racing lingo.
Is it?
You think you can jump in this racing world, but you
Case,
can't.
not graceful. I'll tell you what that is, Case. Not graceful.
I'll tell you what, we're up against it. We're going to come back and get your rating of Days of Thunder, which it sounds like it's going to be on the higher end. And any other notes you had on the movie? There was some behind-the-scenes stuff you told me that I had no idea that involved cocaine.
This is a crazy, crazy production. If you thought Blues Brothers was a love letter to cocaine last week, Days of Thunder on that level.
A lot of cocaine. We'll talk about what that was. And those NASCAR street race tickets coming up, too. Just about 6 minutes away. Stay here.
The Brian and Kenzie Show.
On Q101.
The Brian and Kenzie Show.
On Q101.
Continuing Case's movie review of Days of Thunder, Tom Cruise. And at the end of this review, we're going to get to the point of it here of his a couple more points on the cocaine involved in making Days of Thunder. And then NASCAR street race tickets for next week, Grant Park. You'll get July 5th, July 6th, 2 weekend grounds passes for the NASCAR street race, sponsored by Bet365 and from Brian and Kenzie on Q101. So that's just a couple seconds away. First, some texts have come in. Kenzie, what do you got on the text line?
So 773 texted in and said, my dumbass was thinking you were talking about Tropic Thunder and couldn't believe you hadn't mentioned Robert Downey Jr. yet. And I could totally see that because Tom Cruise is also in Tropic Thunder.
An amazing performance, unusual by Tom Cruise in Tropic Thunder.
Oh, fantastic. One of his best.
Oh, my gosh.
Haven't seen it. We'll get to it at some point.
Very good movie.
Also, first-time texter jumped in at 727. He says, Russ Wheeler in Days of Thunder is Jonas, son of a bitch.
Jonas, son of a bitch.
It's true. All these. Now that you've seen so many movies in the last year and a half, they're all connecting.
I recognize actors now.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, that guy was in another thing.
And then you can appreciate them more because they're different in different movies.
It's funny that you mention Russ Wheeler because he ends up being the big villain in this movie. He's Iceman, but in a car. That is the one thing where it's like, all right, this really is Top Gun with cars. He's got the same flat top, blonde hair. It's the whole thing. But what I learned while researching this movie was the character of Rowdy Burns, which is Michael Rooker's character, was originally offered to Dale Earnhardt Sr.
No way.
And he turned it down because he didn't want to play the bad guy in the movie. Now, if you've seen Days of Thunder, you go, well, Rowdy starts off as the bad guy, but he doesn't end the movie that way. That's because when they started shooting Days of Thunder, there was no finalized script. A lot of this movie was written on the days that they were shooting those scenes. There were times...
Hold on, that's insane.
Yes.
Just slow down there.
Yes.
They were making up the scenes as they were going along for a major motion picture.
How do you pitch that? So, listen.
Well, okay, so it was produced by Don Simpson and Jerry Bruckheimer, and this was the start of a huge deal they had with the studio, with Paramount specifically. And this movie was such a huge financial disaster. There were so many setbacks. There were so many issues on set that this long-term, big-budget contract they had signed with the studio was terminated after this movie. Both parties agreed that it was a bad relationship and they couldn't work with each other anymore. And it's all because of the debauchery that happened on the Days of Thunder set.
Meaning a lot of cocaine.
A lot of cocaine. The barn that plays a central theme in this movie, Robert Duvall's barn, where he's, on the tractor and building cars, they built 3 different barns because the producers looked at the first one and said, not what we have in mind. Second one goes up, not what we had in mind. Third one goes up. They go, you know what? We liked the first one more. Can you guys build that again?
I picture more going like,
Wow, the big barn money, eh?
well, I picture it going, that was no good. Okay. Oh, wait, that barn's the best.
Imagine the trees around there being like, oh my God, they're going to kill us. Like watching their brothers and sisters fall and they still don't like the barn. My God.
That is unbelievable.
Because of all the script changes, Tom Cruise actually had to read his lines off of cue cards attached to his windshield while he was doing some of the driving scenes. Unfortunately,
that sounds super safe.
So, Kenzie, funny you say that. Unfortunately, there were cue cards on his windshield, and it led to him crashing a car at one point. So what they had to do was feed him lines in an earpiece while he was driving because he didn't have time to memorize his lines because the script kept on changing so much. The kicker in all of this, I will give a spoiler here, but it's Days of Thunder. I think from the first 5 seconds you could figure out this would be the end of the movie.
Oh, boy.
The end of the movie is
What
Tom...
does he do, win a race?
So he wins the Daytona 500. It was not until they began the editing process. So movie shot, everybody's gone home. Cast is doing other things. Crew is doing other things. Producers are off doing cocaine somewhere.
You know Tom Cruise is busy. He's
Cruise
got
is
another
busy.
Think
He's
about
booked.
it. He's booked. He's booked.
It is not until they were in the editing process that they realized that they had not captured any footage of Tom Cruise crossing the finish line and winning the Daytona 500.
How do you not have that?
That's the whole point of the movie.
Imagine these guys are done filming. They're sitting back with their cocaine and maybe some cigars and some champagne.
Yes.
Guys, we're done. We got a masterpiece.
Days of Thunder.
Why don't we go in and just check out the final footage? And then the movie ends before he wins the race. Oh,
it's a cliffhanger.
Oh, call everybody back. We got to do it again. We're going to do it live.
Do? Wait, what'd they do?
Kids, they had to call everybody back.
You're lying.
Fake a NASCAR race. They had to fake a NASCAR race so they could get Tom Cruise winning the Daytona 500.
God.
How do you miss that?
That doesn't even get into the Nicole Kidman, Tom Cruise stuff, which I know they were married. I literally know nothing about that relationship. Now's not the time to get into that. I do like that whenever they make out of this movie, it looks like Dikembe Mutombo guarding Spud Webb, but Nicole Kidman is Dikembe Mutombo. She's so much bigger than Tom Cruise. It's such a funny thing to look at. There's, of course, the awkward sex scene where Tom Cruise starts playing with sweet and low packets on her knee and explaining to her what drafting is in NASCAR with these little sugar packets. That's completely bizarre.
You may want to try that move.
I don't know why you're acting like that's not exactly how you hit on women. Yeah. But like with bands.
Yeah, with bands.
They started off in a garage.
If you run out of ideas this weekend, nice summer night, new people, maybe you want a new relationship, try that with the sweet and low packets.
Oh, yeah,
Give it a shot.
The ladies love it.
Yeah.
Look, it's a movie that is definitely flawed. It's not a cinematic masterpiece in the same way that, say, a Pulp Fiction or a Shawshank Redemption or a Jaws is, but start to finish, man, I thought Days of Thunder was a blast. This is a movie that whenever it's on TNT or AMC from now on, I'm going to rewatch it over and over again.
All right, so let's get to your rating.
Wait, hold on. I have to read this text from Bosch. Days of Thunder error in movie, since we're talking about that. Rowdy's wife calls Tom Cruise, whose character's name is Cole, Tom when they're walking by the lake at Rowdy's house.
Oh, no.
She calls him Tom in the movie.
Yeah, well, those guys were doing coke. They didn't know that.
No, imagine reshooting the ending, and then they see that, and they go, we can't call him back again,
Come on
man.
now.
Yeah, I mean, by that point, they get done filming. I mean, the next movie Tom Cruise did after Days of Thunder was that kind of Irish movie, Far and Away, and then A Few Good Men after that.
God, he was busy. He was so busy.
Kenzie, you have no idea. Let's just even start with Top Gun. It was Top Gun, The Color of Money. You have to watch that movie sometime. Cocktail, Rain Man, Born on the 4th of July, Days of Thunder. That was just leading up to Days. And then after that, he goes on, like I said, The Firm, A Few Good Men, Interview with the Vampire, where him and Brad Pitt met the first time.
Love that movie.
And then the first Mission Impossible movie, then Jerry Maguire, Eyes Wide Shut, Magnolia.
Eyes Wide Shut's great.
I know, Kenzie, you love that movie.
It's insane. His run is insane.
There was a sex club in Tampa called Eyes Wide Shut, and I just wanted to see it so bad. I was like, but if I go in, now I'm participating, and I can't, but I just want to know what's going on.
Well, you
No
could.
windows.
You can do what you want. You're an adult.
I was like calling, like, can I get a tour at like noon? Like, I just gotta see. I gotta see.
All right, so what are you going to rank? How are you going to rank this movie?
I think out of Mellow Yellow sponsorships.
Sounds good.
Because I just love that Mellow Yellow car so much. And once I give this rating, we'll have tickets for the Chicago NASCAR street race, which will be great coming up next weekend. I've got to go 7 Mellow Yellow sponsorships out of 10.
All that and just 7.
Well, did we not talk about the flaws in this movie?
Yeah.
It's inherently a flawed movie. I'm not saying that this needs to go on the level of Casablanca, but when Days of Thunder's on, I'm turning it on. I love this. Better than Top Gun.
Okay, well, okay.
And let's just say 630. We have no footage of Tom Cruise crossing the finish line. Son of a bitch.
Jonas, son of a bitch.
312-591-8300. Call right now. NASCAR street race. Yes, next weekend. And we're a big part of it. Saturday, July 5th, Sunday, July 6th. The winner will get 2 weekend grounds passes to the NASCAR street race, sponsored by our great friends, Bet365. You call right now, 312-591-8300, and you have these tickets and experience racing. Robin's Racing. Brian and Kenzie.
Racing.
Q101.
Brian and Kenzie in the morning. And Chicago's alternative all day.
Q101.